Picture this. Your game subscription is about to expire, and suddenly you're scrambling to try to get your money's worth. There's too many games to play and not enough time. The expiration date countdown timer is ticking in the background. Well, November has started, and for me, that means my PlayStation Plus Extra subscription expires in less than a month. I'm sure you can relate because a lot of us renew during Black Friday week. This was my third year of PlayStation Plus Extra, and I've sort of started this annual tradition. Every year I try to beat one huge must-play big game before my subscription is over. My first year, that must-play game was Returnal. I had to beat it before my sub expired, and that platinum required annoying RNG, but I managed it just in time. The second year, it was Ghost of Tsushima. A great game, but arguably a bit too heavy on the collectibles and filler. And now as we reach the end of 2025, I find myself staring at three amazing games. Demon's Souls, The Last of Us Part 2, and Cyberpunk 2077. I don't have enough time for all three, so I can only pick one. Do you do this too? If it were to expire, going out with a bang would make it feel like I really got my money's worth. But this time, part of me is tempted to not renew. You're probably wondering, why am I letting it expire this time? Was it the price increase in 2023? Or the other price increase in 2025? Or maybe it was because Sony kicked millions of loyal subscribers out of the Black Friday eligibility window by giving us those 5 free days we couldn't opt out of. Which, by the way, I'm proud to say that I was the first to predict would happen. That's part of it, but that's not the whole picture. And it's not because the games suck either. No, not at all. We literally just had one of our best months ever. Alan Wake 2, Last of Us 2, and Silent Hill 2, back to back. So why am I canceling then? Well, I wish the answer was simple, but the truth is, there are a few reasons I'm being pushed to step away. So put down the pitchforks and see if you can relate first.
Violence will do more harm than good.
Funny, don't you think, kid?
Let's talk about the FOMO trap, because it works in two ways. First, there's the fear of missing out when you don't have access. You see shiny new games being added every month and think, I wish I was a member right now. Should I sign up just for a month so I can claim this? And then there's the other end of the FOMO cycle, the last chance to play. This is the opposite. These are games that you've had on your backlog, the ones you've been ignoring for months and taking for granted. You've now got less than a month before they leave. You'll lose access to them forever. Or even worse, imagine you're not up to date with the news or not subscribed to this channel and you don't even know when a game is leaving. You boot up one night and you can't get in. A game you are currently playing suddenly gets the dreaded lock symbol. Now that game is stuck in limbo hell, never going to be finished unless you buy it. That's the only way to continue your save. When you subscribe to a service like this, you're not just getting access to hundreds of games. You're signing up for constant pressure. Since games will be leaving every single month, it means you'll constantly be racing against the clock. You'll start prioritizing these last chance to play games over the games you actually wanted to play right now. And you can forget about the games you actually bought and own. Since they're not going anywhere, they get pushed further into the backlog, collecting enough dust to have Nathan Drake himself find a treasure map leading to them. You see, my PS5 came with God of War Ragnarok, and I subscribed to PS Plus Extra the very next day. To this day, I've only spent 15 minutes in that game. I knew it would take a whole month to beat, let alone platinum, which means a whole month of not tackling backlog games from PS Plus Extra. My gaming habits stopped being about what I wanted to play, and I started caring more about what games I might lose access to. And I wish I could say that it was all bad, but it wasn't. In fact, I had a great time discovering tons of games through the Last Chance to Play list. Some amazing, memorable moments from games that weren't even on my radar. It exposed me to dozens of titles I would have never tried if they weren't leaving, and never in 100 years would I have actively bought these games outside of the subscription. That's one of the main strengths of a subscription service. It's like a buffet. You have access to everything, so you can sample whatever you want. Maybe you'll love it and commit to finishing the whole thing, or maybe you take a bite and hate it and just leave it on the plate. Either way, there's no buyer's remorse and there's no sunk cost fallacy. You ever buy a game only to play it for a few minutes and realize it was a waste of money? That doesn't happen on PS Plus Extra. You just delete it and move on to the next. Or have you ever bought a game that you didn't enjoy and forced yourself to finish it just so you can get your money's worth? That's called sunk cost fallacy. You don't have to do that here in this buffet. You just delete it and move on to the thing that you actually enjoy. While PS Plus Extra is like a buffet, sometimes with too many choices, which has its own set of problems, the Last Chance to Play is like a featured table sitting in the middle of the room with a timer on it. This weekend special, steak and calamari. That sounds like a weird combo, but there's only 20 minutes left. You might love some of it and you might hate some of it, but either way, it's disappearing soon. Isn't it worth at least trying? And that is the hidden cost of subscription services. They don't just give you access, they shape your behavior. They control how you play and why you play. I still feel like I got my money's worth and then some. I played a lot of the games I really wanted to play, and on top of that, got exposed to games I have never even heard of. But now, as we reach the end of the third year of this buffet, I'm starting to feel full.
This is a one-time gig. When it's done, we're done.
When I first subscribed to PS Plus Extra, the value was incredible. I got it on sale for $80 for the whole year. And that's not essential, the basic tier. That was the price for the second tier, PS Plus Extra, with access to 400 games on the catalog. God of War, Spider-Man, Death Stranding, Returnal. There were so many games I wanted to play, and many of them were like $80 each at the time. So this is what the Black Friday deal looked like to me. I can either pay $80 for one game, and you get to keep it forever, or I can pay $80 for a 1-year subscription, and you get to beat every single game that I mentioned, and many, many more, but you can't keep those games. You don't own them after you cancel. So even if I just paid for 1 year, it was the deal of a lifetime. Sure, I wouldn't get to keep the games, but how many of the games I beat did I actually revisit? To me, as I looked back at my shelf of over 50 PS3 games, I realized, personally, I didn't even touch one game after I completed it. It just collected dust and got added to the pile for a nice decoration. Sure, I could sell them, but most of these games you'd be lucky to get $5 for. So I know this will set a lot of people off, but to me, personally, owning the game didn't matter that much. At least to me, because I had grown up in the renting era. Let's go back a few decades. I used to rent Nintendo games from Blockbuster. Even though I didn't own as many as the other kids, I actually beat many more than they did. So for buying a game then to make sense to me, a $60 game would need to be rented 10 times to justify its retail price. The majority of games I was beating in just 1 or maximum 2 rental periods. Games were much shorter back then, so renting it twice was costing me only $12 a game. But most games I only rented once. The math made sense in my young mind. Here's an old article from 2003. There's no comparison between paying $22 a month for 8 or so games from GameFly and paying $50 for a clunker of a game. So these conversations about owning versus subscription services for games have been going on for decades. We just used to call it renting. Yes, in the long run, buying the game is worth it because it becomes a collectible. So you can get your money back and then some, especially if it's in new condition. But the majority of people nowadays just own the digital version. Who are you going to sell that to? Can you even sell those? So from my point of view, I treated my first year of PS Extra like the renting I was used to. So let's jump back to the present. So not only did I more than get my money's worth by playing the big games I wanted to, I also tackled way more indie games than anyone else should. I did this again in year 2 and then again in year 3. I only played half as many games, but still, I was still getting my money's worth. But as we're reaching the end of year 3, the law of diminishing returns, or utility to be more accurate, starts to show up. You see, what actually happens when you use a subscription service to its full potential is the more you use it, the less value it has. I know that seems ironic, but the more games you play, the smaller your backlog gets. So if there were 20 huge games you really wanted to play and you beat 10 of them the first year, the second year, you're going to be paying the same price, but for half the games you wanted to play. By the third year, it's even less exciting. And that's assuming the inputs stay the same, like your hours and how much it costs. But we all know that Sony raised its price, so it now actually costs more for fewer attractive options. After a certain point, you've played everything you've wanted to and are now at the mercy of the new games coming in every month. You're basically signing up and paying money not for that catalog game that's been on your backlog that you can play right now if you sign up, but for the game you hope will come to the service. So guess what's going to happen? You're going to be really emotionally invested every single month and disappointed and upset that you're wasting your money because you didn't get the game you wanted to. Now, I love all genres, and I like to try out at least anything once. I know not everyone's like that. Through the comments, I learned there's a lot of people that only play one genre and don't touch anything else. And they are the most vocal when it comes to PS Plus sucks. So trying out a new game from a new genre I haven't even heard about isn't the worst thing in the world to me. But when you take into account how expensive it's getting and that many players have this self-inflicted genre restriction, you can see why so many people are constantly complaining that there are no good games being added and that PS Plus is a ripoff.
Hey kid, it's a cat!
Keep quiet, 6304!
Do you know what happened while I was grinding my extra backlog so hard and chasing those FOMO games that were leaving? My backlog wasn't shrinking, it was actually getting bigger. But not my extra backlog, the games that don't leave. These included the games I bought, all the great games in the PS collections that I still haven't beat, and the dozens of PS Plus monthly games that I claimed but never even started. You see, what happened during my first 2 years is I spent more time than I wanted playing monthly games. These games I didn't even add to the 70 number, but these monthly games were like the Mass Effect trilogy, Power Wash Simulator, even like crap games like AEW. I regretted spending so much time on these games, especially things like Power Wash Simulator, when I could have been playing something off of Extra. I looked back at that year and really regretted wasting my time because I missed out on at least one extra game that left the catalog that I didn't have time for because I decided Power Wash Simulator was how I should have spent my month. So my new plan was simple. I'll just play those later. They're not going anywhere. Eventually, I could just go back to Essential tier, and those games will be waiting for me. So for now, I'll focus on the PS Extra games because those ones have the potential to leave. The monthly games don't expire. I'll get to play them eventually. So let's put them on the back burner instead of the backlog. So I started to play only the Extra games. I was diligent, stayed focused, and didn't get distracted as much because I had a clear goal. I ended up doing pretty well for the year too, but the irony is, I probably would have enjoyed some of those monthly games more than the games I was playing and felt obligated to finish. Wait, I thought this was about maximizing fun. Am I losing the plot? When do I finally get to play Alan Wake 2, Sifu, and Jusant? Those were on my wish list for so long, but now that they're here, I'm ignoring them. You see, subscription services create artificial urgency, and this sometimes overrides your natural gaming preferences. So yes, I did get my money's worth. I maximized. But at what cost? Which brings us to the question, is PS Plus even worth it? I've heard all the complaints, and they usually fall into one of these main two categories. 1, complaints about the selection of games, and 2, time-related complaints. Which brings us to 2 conclusions. PS Plus is worth it if A, there's lots of games currently on the catalog that you've been waiting to play, and B, if you actually have the time to play them. If you're new to PlayStation and haven't already played those must-play titles on the catalog, like God of War, Spider-Man, Uncharted, then the catalog looks exciting to you, and you have so much catching up to do. You're gonna have a blast. But for longtime PlayStation fans, they've already beaten those games years ago. So that's why they're a bit more jaded and demanding. They played many of them last gen. A lot of them are just PS4 remakes, PS3 remakes, PS2, even PS1 remakes. The longer you've been in the PlayStation ecosystem, the more games you've already played. And the more games you've played, the less exciting the catalog selection looks. The second complaint is time. Do you actually have the time to beat these games? Or are you a casual player putting in less than 2 hours a week? With those hours, you'll be lucky to get through just one big AAA game the whole year. And at that point, you're better off just buying that game instead. The time limitation also kicks in when the last chance to play games are announced. You have only 1 month to get through one or more games before its contract expires. So can you put extra gaming time this month to make sure you beat it in time? If not, then it seems like the catalog is taking more than giving. Every month, a game you wanted to play leaves, and you didn't have enough time to play it. So what's the point? For me in the beginning, when I signed up, both of these things were very true. I had plenty of time, and I was new to most of the games. So while others were complaining that there was a lackluster collection, I was seeing a goldmine. You see, I was never motivated by FOMO before when it came to video games. I was was still on my PS3, and I only had the PS4 for about a year or two before I upgraded to the PS5. So there were tons of PS4 games I never got to play. I was what they now call a patient gamer. I didn't care about hype. I tried my best to ignore or avoid spoilers and went about my way. Even on the PS3 at the end of its cycle, I waited for years until the game was on a deep discount before I finally bought it. Even the PS3 itself that I bought came with 10 games for under $100 Canadian. I've always been a thrifty and patient gamer, so I couldn't understand all the negative hype around PS Plus. I was living out my patient gamer dream. I ran the numbers on exactly how much value I got, the price per month, how many games I played, and I'll show you all the numbers in a follow-up video. It will go into the details and you'll get a chance to see the spreadsheets, but that's later this month. So subscribe if you want to see the data. But for now, let's just stay focused on the perceived value, not the hard numbers. So if my first year of PS Plus Extra, I played 70 games and it only cost me $80, that means I was paying a little bit more than $1 per game. Do I need to repeat that? I paid $1 to Platinum Returnal. I paid $1 to Platinum God of War. And some of these games are still selling for $70 to $100 in the store. Best deal ever. But as we learned from the last chapter, I'm starting to pass a point where I've almost caught up to the Sony hardcores, the jaded ones. I've played nearly everything I wanted to. So now the catalog is starting to look empty. And when it becomes empty, you become way more critical about the new games that drop. Because sometimes those are the only games that you haven't played. So if you're still on Extra, after you've played everything you've wanted to, you start playing games that almost interest you. They don't interest you enough to play them right away, and you definitely wouldn't buy them. But the second they show up on Last Chance to Play, you're like, okay, fine, I'll give it a chance. Motivated entirely because of FOMO. The subscription should serve your gaming habits. Your gaming habits shouldn't serve the subscription. For me, I have an entire different problem on top of this. I decided to become a content creator, so I can recommend games for you guys. So that means in order for me to be an expert on the topic, I have to actually play the games I talk about. Now, I did the smart thing and decided to focus on short games, and games respecting your time has been a staple of this channel. Without the hands-on experience and footage, I couldn't give you an honest recommendation. So that means I have to play as many games under 10 hours as I can, even if they're bad. Don't get me wrong, I've been pleasantly surprised more often than not playing some of these hidden gems that don't get talked about enough. But I also play bad games that shouldn't be talked about. In the world of buying games, paying full price for a 4-hour game is such a ripoff. In the world of renting a game, beating a game with only one rental is the dream. So what I did is treated the PS Plus Extra catalog like my personal Blockbuster. Every week I'll rent a game, try to beat it, capture in-game footage, and that's one more game I can reference in the future. But there's two problems that are arising. Number one, leisure with a deadline starts to feel like a job. And two, I'm now playing games as a content creator and ignoring the games I actually want to play as a gamer. I love short games, but I still want to play the huge blockbuster games that everyone is talking about. But it's becoming harder to do both. There's just not enough time. Especially with a job. Maybe this is my new job. I mean, I've been monetized for a year now. Hit 1K Black Friday last year. And now it's 1 year later, I'm almost at 10K. That's huge for most people. But even though I treated this like a job for a year, it sure doesn't pay like a job, trust me. I put 30 to 40 hours into some of these videos. A full week's worth of work, and it might get like $10 per video. If that. I barely get to game anymore because I'm editing these videos. And when I finally do get a chance to game, it's for gathering footage, not always for personal enjoyment. So now back to my dilemma from the beginning. Which of those 3 games do I tackle for my last month? At least last month of PS Plus Extra. Do I go for Demon's Souls, The Last of Us Part 2, or Cyberpunk 2077? Do I even have time to beat any one of them? Or should I sacrifice my personal gaming and think about the channel instead? Should I instead spend all of November gathering footage and playing an hour or two of every game I'm curious about because I'm soon going to lose access to that ability? Either way, it's a lose-lose because I'm chasing FOMO again. So you add the content creation schedule on top of the price increase and diminishing returns, PS Plus Extra is starting to lose its shine.
I'll be back in a flash. Promise.
So when my subscription expires at the end of November, I'll finally decide whether to downgrade to Essential or just cancel outright. I'll get to go to either the few games that I bought and finally play and beat God of War Ragnarok and Soma, or I'm going to downgrade and take my time with all the monthly games that I've claimed and haven't started yet. When you add all of those and the PS collection, Essential starts looking like it's worth it for less than $10 a month. Either way, the path looks brighter. Less pressure, less crunch. I can take my time. Is this what defeating FOMO will look like? No more caring and rushing to beat last chance to play games. No more picking between gaming for personal enjoyment or gaming for content. No more turning leisure into a job that pays third world wages with first world rent. I wish I could say this will be the last time I have to make this decision, but we all know in a year's time, I'll be tempted to upgrade back to Extra again because there will be so many games to look forward to. But that's next year's problem. We'll have to see where this channel ends up by then. But for now, I'm looking so forward to this year-long break. And I finally get to do it at my own pace. The important rule in gaming is to have fun. Play the game you want, when you want, not because a timer is running out or because you want to get your money's worth. Just be patient and reclaim your time. Your time is more important than money right now. Cherish it. It's time to remember what gaming used to feel like before I was racing against a countdown timer.
Oh, there we go.
You think it's still good?
Does weed go bad?
So the takeaway from this that you can apply to your own gaming habits is, are you playing games because you want to, or are you afraid of losing access? Are you getting value from your subscription, or is your subscription gaining value from you? Do you feel ripped off because you don't have enough time? Or maybe the games are bad and you don't like them. Or maybe you have lots of time to game and lots of games are on the catalog you want to play. So it feels like you're stealing games because it's such a good deal. If you've beaten most of what you wanted to play, and if your schedule doesn't give you enough time, maybe it's worth to downgrade too, or just let it expire altogether. Your backlog will thank you because the chase is on pause, and your wallet will thank you because you're not chasing trends or sales. Just be a patient gamer, especially if you're older. Take your time and actually try to have fun. You might actually start enjoying gaming again. If you're interested in the actual games I played and exactly how much money I saved, and you like charts and data, there will be a third-year deep dive video at the end of November that goes over that. So click this if you're seeing this in the future, otherwise go watch Every Good Game on PS Plus Extra to see if the game selection is actually worth it right now. Thanks for following my personal journey, watching the whole thing, and I hope you learned something new. Become a member to get access to spreadsheets, and until next time, be a friend, and I'll see you again.